Good evening, everyone. Guys, it has been an absolute scorcher today in more ways than one. Digging in the garden all day, and then I got back into the house and wow, did things literally explode overnight last night. So the news that's been hitting me and coming through to my mobile phone was that Ukraine has fired US HIMARS systems into Russia. Now, the Ukrainians are not saying anything about this. There's nothing coming from any NATO sources. This is from Russian sources. So, I'm not sure where we go with that. But remember what I always say, guys, okay? The reality of the situation doesn't really matter. It's the, it's the perception of that reality. If the Russians think that HIMARS, that the Ukrainians are using US weapons now to target basically Russian mainland, then it doesn't matter whether it happened or not. The only thing that matters is that what people believe, like so many things in life. So just quickly, guys, for the HIMARS, the high mobility artillery rocket system. Basically, guys, that's like a base for being able to fire other systems. It's basically a truck with a back thing on it that you can put lots of rockets in, different types of rockets. In a nutshell, guys, for somebody with no military experience, with no understanding of different systems, it's a truck with a launcher on the back. The launcher can be filled with a lot of different types of rockets. Now, as I understand, the Ukrainians have got the ATACMS, which is Army Tactical Missile Systems, maybe? Yeah, Army Tactical Missile Systems. So the ATACMS have a range of about 165 kilometers. Now, I know that there's a problem with the HIMARS. You can't, there's something stipulated by the Americans to say that they can't go that far to the front line. So that kind of limits them, and then they're limited again to what they can strike into Russia. But there's a new missile system, a new missile basically for the rocket launcher that's called the Prism, and that's got it's got a range of, they say 499 kilometers. I don't know why they wouldn't just say 500, because all these ranges are a little bit skew with anyway. That's what they're claiming the range is. Now, if they get that system, and they're able to fire that into mainland Russia, then that's going to have a huge effect on, on everything, really. So what does this mean? I think what's key is the use of HIMARS now, the actual use of it to fire weapons now into Russia, because slowly, as time goes on, as things plod on, the fog of war, we're not sure who's firing what at who, and hey guys, these three locations have just been blown up, and then the Ukrainians can say, yeah, we used a drone strike. Now, was that a drone strike complemented by HIMARS? Was it a HIMARS strike and then a load of drone strikes to get rid of any HIMARS evidence? We don't know, guys, all right? But remember, these two countries are at war. So as far as I'm concerned, people are talking about not escalating. Well, the escalation is down. It's for those two countries to decide. They are literally at war with each other. If you've ever had a fight in a pub car park, all right, you don't want to, you don't want to be de-escalating things. You want to win because you're already in a fight. You do de-escalation before you come to the fight. Once you're in the fight, you have, your main intent is to win that fight. De-escalation comes before the fight, so people need to get this, get this notion of de-escalation and not escalating out of their heads, because if these guys are in a war with each other, which they are, then escalation, people shouldn't be talking about it. And I don't really know why people are talking about this. So de-escalation and all this sort of stuff comes before the fight. When you're in a fight, you don't say, like if you're in a fight in a pub car park, your friends don't shout, mate, you need to de-escalate this fight. No, it's like you need to win that fight, especially if, like the Ukrainians are, they're in a fight for their literal existence. But anyway, guys, so that's just a little thing about de-escalation and all these crazy things what people are talking about. But that's where we're going to move forwards to, guys, all right? We're going to have the more use of the HIMARS, it's going to be normalized. Then we're just going to, they're going to get this bigger missile system, and then they're going to be able to strike further and further into Russian mainland. So how are the Russians going to respond to this? Well, we already know how they're going to respond. I think it was like what are we on today? I think we're on the 2nd today. I don't know. I don't know. I think it was the 31st or something. The Russians came out and they said, if Ukraine use US weapons on Russian soil, then Russia could go to war with NATO over this. Now, the Russians are really good at blowing hot air. Whether they follow through with that, we don't know. Only time will tell. But that is what they have said. And, people are pushing them and keep firing into their land and keep doing things that they shouldn't. At some point, they're going to retaliate. And again, the Russians are the aggressor here, guys, all right? There's no disputing that. Russians came over the border in February 22, and everything else after that is their own problem. If they left Ukraine now, that would be it. But the reality is they don't, they won't, they're staying there. So, there's going to be an escalation. The Russians at some point are going to escalate further onto this. So let's not forget as well that it was only like a week ago or something when the Ukrainians took out the long-range missile detection radar on Russian ground. So we already know that they have that capability. Now this is being complemented again with this HIMARS rocket system that has even further capability. It has even further reach. So what are they going to be? What will the Ukrainians be targeting? Well, they should, I'd like to think they should be targeting things that are expensive, things that are hard to repair, and things that can't be repaired, that obviously have, an effect on the war effort. So aircraft, you can't always repair aircraft. Once an aircraft's damaged, it's very hard to repair that in a sufficient way. Runways, if you destroy the runway, the aircraft are not leaving. Fuel and ammo storages. This is one of the big. This was one of the big problems. This has always been a problem in the Ukraine war because of these smaller drones. You get these smaller drones now that can spot these. So normally, let me just quickly talk about battle procedure, guys, and how an attack would work. So you would have your artillery, your fire support. And if it was going to be for a big attack to take on a big target, they would have to have a lot of ammo because they're using a lot of ammo. So that ammo will be located near the artillery systems because you wouldn't want it located miles away because your guys would have to run too far to get the ammunition. So your ammunition needs to be, pre-dumped in a relatively easy place. Now the problem here, once you dump that huge amount of ammo, it becomes a very soft target because it can't really be armoured. It can't really have protection on it because that protection is going to stop people getting in and getting that ammo out. So when these attacks are forming and the Russians are going to do a big attack and on equal sides the Ukrainians are going to do a big attack, this will get spotted by a small quadcopter. That quadcopter will then relay the information back to an artillery post or something, and then they will fire and try and take out that ammunition dump. That ammunition dump then will go up and it will have a knock-on effect, and that's how the war's been fought. So the Ukrainians have not been able to, either side have not been able to have really big artillery supported battles. The Russians, they're able to fire their artillery at the moment from Russia, the Russian ground because the drones can't go over there. The Ukrainians can't strike them with as much accuracy as they can in Ukraine because they're not allowed to use these precision weapon systems outside of Ukraine. Now, obviously, this has opened up now. We've got the fellowship of countries that are allowing this. We've got the US allowing this. The UK said this quite a while ago. So fuel and ammo storage depots, dumps, whatever you want to call them, they're going to be a huge target. You've got logistical lines, so not just roads in Russia. They rely heavily on their rail network. So I would say rail networks are a fair target, especially if they're near the front and they're transporting in ammunition, weapons, tanks, you know, that sort of stuff, logistics, and any communication systems. Always communication systems. They are, you can never take out enough of your enemy's communication systems. So they're kind of what they're gonna, you know, what they're gonna take out. Remember also from the Russian side now, once this starts happening, once the you know, the things I've just said, aircraft, runways, fuel, ammo, logistics, comm stations, once these start getting taken out, remember what we said a couple of days ago, the Russians already know or believe, whatever's happening on the ground doesn't matter, but the Russians believe that it's NATO troops now operating these HIMARS, operating these long-range weapon systems. So as far as the Russians are concerned, they've got NATO troops firing NATO weapons into Russia, you know, and these things are just, you know, there's no going back from these, you know, there's no going back from these once they've started. They just go further forwards, and you get something called mission creep. So okay, you know, Biden said, and I don't know what he said, but you know, say he says you can only strike targets within a 10-mile radius of the border. Okay, fine. What about 11 miles? Okay, fine. Okay. What about 12 miles? Right, okay, fine. What about 13 miles? No, that's too far. Yeah, but you said 12 miles. Yeah, okay, 12 miles is okay. Are you sure not 12? You see where I'm going, guys? You know, you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and you get mission creep, and then you can double this up with drone strikes, and then, you know, the drone strikes, I feel, could be just a way to disguise the long-range weapon strikes from the NATO systems. On the backdrop of this now, you've got China refusing to go to this this peace summit. That's I think it's this month, the peace summit in Switzerland. I think it's this month. Hang on, I think I've got it up here, guys. Hang on. No, I haven't. Hang on. Yes, I have. Yes, it is. Yeah, this month. Yeah. So there's a peace summit in Switzerland this month where, you know, basically the Chinese have said we're not going. I think the Chinese and Brazil have said the same thing. They're not going because the Russians are not invited, you know, and think of that what you will. But you can see now that these groups, these trading nations, these economic blocks, these currency teams, whatever you want to call them, they're all gearing up together. And it's that you can draw so many parallels to the world in like I want to say 1936, because that was the Spanish Civil War, but I think we're past that now. So I'd say we're like, you know, 1938 time, maybe even closer to the, you know, to when these things kick off. But there's so many different things happening now, so many alliances being formed, so much money being spent in the military industrial complex. Guys, if you didn't watch my video on military industrial complex, go and check that out. I went into it and, you know, and explained how it's not as dark and it's not as lucrative as people think. And if, in my opinion, we should spend more there, but just spend it better as well. Anyway, guys, so that's what's happening in the world at the moment. We've got all these, you know, all these countries joining forces together, supporting each other. Remember, I've said India and Turkey all along are going to be key players, because India is going to overtake China at some point for the world's manufacturing capital, and Turkey is a NATO member. It's predominantly Muslim, and it's going to be very interesting which side of this fence the Turkish sit on. Usually the Turkish do what's best for the Turkish, so they kind of, you know, they don't ally with anyone and they ally with everyone. So it's going to be really interesting to see Turkey and India, where the chips fall with those guys. And, you know, it's just absolutely wild times. And I know I've said this before, but remember when that poll came out in February, and there was all the generals on the news, and they were saying, yes, you know, we should be prepared for war with Russia in the next 5 to 10 years. And then, you know, all the polls were out, and people were talking about a war with Russia, with China, with whoever within the next 5 to 10 years. Guys, I honestly don't think we're going to get to September before somebody actually calls it and says, guys, yeah, we can't hide the fact anymore. We're actually, you know, it's actually happening. I think if you live in the UK, you'll know we've been in recession for such a long time. But the government keep fudging the statistics. They keep saying, "Ah, yeah, no. This is a recession," and then they'll change the numbers around so you're not in a recession, and then they don't get to print it. Or what they do is as well in the UK, they'll print the numbers and they'll say, "No, we're not. We're really good. This is really good." And then when everybody's calmed down and no one's interested anymore, under the radar, they'll say, "Oh, hang on, we're going to make an adjustment," and then they'll readjust the numbers. So it's very murky. The reality is we don't really know what is happening behind closed doors. But guys, I could argue that we're already in a world war. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below, guys. It's been a long day today for me. I've been doing a lot of digging. My hands feel like, well, they're actually absolutely throbbing. I've got blisters. I'm going to be doing more digging tomorrow. I'm going to be giving you guys another update tomorrow, hopefully on our little on the bunker that we found in the garden. And guys, like always, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I wrong? Tell me. I'll see you guys later.